everyone. Welcome today. I have Lynne Williams here, a master Philadelphia area networker, if there ever was one. And I didn't mean to scare Lynne at first when I posted about information about doing the whole keywords and things, but this presentation is going to be a lot more involved. And I look forward to a lot of what you have to say, Lynne, because I have a feeling that I'm going to be learning today as well. So,
well, I'm thrilled to be here and look forward to sharing some job search strategies. I have 15 basic ones that I think we can chat about.
Sure. Before anything else, is your doctorate on LinkedIn exactly? Or
yes, I'm currently working on my doctoral dissertation. The topic happens to be on LinkedIn for job seekers who are digital immigrants. Now, what a digital immigrant is somebody who is a Gen X or a boomer, which means that they were born like after 1980 and they were not born, with a technology spoon in their hand, so to speak. So they've had to learn how to adapt and grow and become digital learners.
Mhm.
Some people have, and some people have not. So that's what the doctoral dissertation is about.
So now we're going to find out about some of these wonderful tips.
Yeah. So let's talk about some job seeker tips.
Sure.
So the first thing is we're going to talk about the applicant tracking system. You hear that all the time, the dreaded applicant tracking system, right? And, a lot of it has to do with formatting a resume.
Mhm.
So you have to have an unformatted resume. Basically, what I call it is a deconstructed resume. And it has no tables or charts or lines or borders or shading. And there's a lot more. I take it down to Arial 12-point font.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a bot can read. If you think about it, I love Canva, to make graphic images, and I use it pretty much every day, but not for resumes. People just have to realize that those are for humans. They're pretty for humans, but you really need to break it down and have just a plain Arial 12-point font text of a resume so that the bots can read it. If you think about it, LinkedIn's a database, right? You're in IT, you know about databases.
Sure.
What are in databases? What collects the information? What's it called? Starts with an F. Think baseball.
Well, I'm thinking about a field.
That's it. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So in databases, there are fields. You have a first name field, you have a last name field, you have a phone number field. So the bot needs to be able to extract that information from your resume and pop it into the field.
Mm-hmm.
And if your resume is formatted so that the bots can read it, it should just populate in a nanosecond, and then you just have to make a couple tweaks.
Definitely.
So I'm sure you've applied to jobs before using, online applications, right?
Yes, I have, and I've tried very much to tailor it to the job specs to make sure that the job specs match the resume and not to get it too difficult for it to be read. There are challenges, and that's, of course, what do you do when you have multiple jobs which are current, or what do you do if you don't have a current job, and if you're forced to put a salary in or an age or something?
Yeah, there's lots of what ifs.
Yes.
And you know what? There's over 200 applicant tracking systems that exist, and they all don't, work exactly precisely the same way. And some of the bigger ones, they're definitely more sophisticated than some of the smaller ones potentially. And it might be easier to read certain resumes than others, but you never know what you're going to get, right?
You also don't know what the guideline is for the different systems as to how many they're going to accept and not accept, and what the parameters are. Maybe they're going to take 5%, 3%, 1%, and that's the part you don't really know. Taking it out of the box versus something where they actually can customize it.
So an applicant tracking system, in general, it's a parser, and when you put your resume through a parser, the bots are going to read it, and they're going to give you a mathematical score as to how well you've got a matchy with the job description, right? So that mathematical score is based upon something called contextualization. So contextualization is when the bot reads not only keywords, but the words before it and after it. So in other words, it reads entire phrases. So you want to have, keywords from the job description in your customized resume. Everybody should start off with a base resume and then customize it to each job that they're applying to. And if you have a resume format that is geared towards that purpose, with a whole section on keywords or skills, whatever you want to call them, I call them core competencies, then it is easy to manage that. Now, you also might want to weave in some key phrases from the job description into your normal resume, as if you were sort of wordsmithing it,
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to plagiarize whole sections of the job description. And I know some people are very naughty and they think, oh, I can put the whole job description at the end of my resume. I'll put it in white. I'll make it a 1-point font. And guess what color it comes out on the other end, Ken?
Black.
Yes, exactly. So then somebody's going to question your integrity, right? Are you trying to cheat the system? Or are you clever by cheating the system? It's one of those 50-50 things, but I think you're better off just going in on your own and making sure that you've got a custom resume to that job description.
Definitely.
Now, I happen to teach this workshop all the time, at least once every other month, it seems like. And I think I've got one coming up in the 21st at 6:00 at night. So if folks go to our nonprofit career education website, greatcareersphl.org, which is soon to be another URL. Believe it or not, we're going to make some big moves here, but I don't want to spill the beans because we're not quite ready yet. But right now, if you go to the events page, you'll see at the bottom of the events page a listing of all the events that we've got coming up, and that's a good one. I actually wrote a chapter in a book with 15 other career coaches from around the country, and Dick Bowles, the author of What Color's Your Parachute,
Right.
and that bit of information about applying to jobs is in the chapter.
So what are some of the other job search tips you'd like to share today?
Next one is probably elevator pitch. Everybody's got to have some sort of a pitch, and it's a different pitch for different purposes. It depends whether you're with other job seekers or whether you're at a networking event with a chamber of commerce or an industry, different strokes for different folks. But I really think the short and sweet is the best. And I love something called a memory dart. And that is where you put in a vivid image so that people can remember you by the vivid image. Have you ever done that?
No, but what I've also learned to do is have an elevator pitch for my family who's not in the field, who doesn't really know all the ITEs or whatever the E's is, and they just want to know in a general way, what do you do? And I think that's something that's very important.
Yeah, it also relates to when you go on a job interview, when you get the tell me about yourself. So there's different ways and techniques to do that. In a ways, it's an elevator pitch, it's a starter, but a lot of people get very nervous with that question. You don't want to go on and on and on. So I'm going to give a K-12 teacher tip on that one. So if you try to think about a thesis statement, a thesis statement is I am A, comma, B, comma, and C. Then you can expound another sentence or two about A, another one about B, and another one or two sentences about C. And then you bring it all back home and repeat that you are detail-oriented, organized, and creative, or whatever words or in the job description, you just want to echo it back so that you're showing that you have those skills or those strengths. And if you do this thesis statement writing, you might have been taught this in, middle school, high school, college, at some point in time. It's a good, easy way to remember the tell me about yourself, and hopefully you keep that short and sweet. But if you can remember those, 3 little points, it's always good to jog the memory.
So just for a second, Maureen wanted to know, it's Great Careers Philly
PHL, like Philadelphia.
greatcareersphi.org. And
Yeah,
what
and
I'll
it's
do later on is when I do the follow-up, I'll comment to that too. I just wanted to do some call outs to some of the people here, some old and new friends. We got Carol, of course, from New Jersey. Jennifer Golding, one of my new LinkedIn buds. We've been doing some LinkedIn training together. Joey, it's not snowing in central New Jersey, which is really good. Dr. Scott from South Carolina. Cecilia here. And of course, we have Terry. We have Christine. I want everyone here, if they have questions along the way, definitely, post them in the chat, and we can speak to them, because, whatever we don't have specifically that we don't talk about later on, we can always follow up. So what are the other tips that you wanted to bring up besides those first two?
Okay. So when you are in job search, you got a little time on your hands, right? So one of them is to volunteer so that you can share your expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I started out when I was in my job search in 2013. I found score.org and I found my local chapter. So I got to volunteer for social media, and I got to have experience doing posts and learning about hashtags and figure out what works and what didn't work. Another thing I got to do was be on the Speakers Bureau. So because of that, I am actually still on the Speakers Bureau for SCORE, and April of 2022 will be my 9th year with SCORE. And that's speaking to America's small businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or those people that are thinking about starting a business or perhaps a side gig. So SCORE does free mentoring, by the way. And I just think it's a terrific organization. If you are thinking about, being a business owner of some sort, even a part-time business owner. So if you can share your expertise, I love this phrase that I learned from my Penn State professor when I took a content analytics certificate course. He said, riches in niches. Love that. Riches in niches. So, when you are on LinkedIn, you have, keywords that are big categories, they're overall categories. But if you specialize in something, you got to toot your horn, because there's somebody out there that needs your expertise.
Someone actually, I had a call right before here. Someone was asking for some advice. Her last job was in December 2020, and she doesn't have a current job on LinkedIn, and she doesn't really know how to portray herself. And I asked her, I said, what are the things you've been doing since then? What have you been doing to volunteer? What have you been doing to consulting? You got to put those down, because just telling me doesn't make any, it's great to know about it, but you want to let other people know about it at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of people that have the want, need, and desire to pivot or reinvent themselves. I personally have been through 6 reinventions in different industries. So, when you're dealing with an online persona, you definitely have to position yourself with your future forward. You can't change your past and where you've been, but you can certainly communicate in writing, I am making a career pivot to blah, 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 because, I've been volunteering in that industry for X number, years, or, whatever reason that you may have. So you just got to communicate, why are you moving from everything in the past to a new position in the future?
And it's also the what's in it for me. You want to make sure your next company your past experience is all well and good, but how's it going to help me out?
Absolutely. So another tip is that you want to do informational interviews, and especially if you're doing a reinvention or a career pivot, you got to find people that are doing what you want to do. Like, connect with people that do what you want to be when you grow up, so to speak.
Right.
And, it's great to ask them questions. How did you move up the ladder in your career? What experience and did you find the most helpful? What about training? Is there anybody that I should know or follow, or articles I should read so that I can learn more to be successful? I have some experience, but not a lot of experience. And sometimes when you have an informational interview with a person at one of your target companies where you'd like to work, there's some things in bigger companies called employee referral bonuses. So you're not there to ask anybody for a job, only information. And usually people are very kind and they're willing to give people information. And if you build that know, like, and trust and build that relationship, maybe a little bit further down in the conversation, the person, you might say to the person, yeah, I saw this position posted on your company's website for blah, blah, blah. Do you happen to know anything about who the hiring manager is? Could you tell me anything about the interviewing or onboarding process? Because I think I'm going to apply to it. Well, wouldn't you know that person might say, ooh, I get an employee referral bonus. So let me walk that resume down to the hiring manager, or please put my name on your online application as the person who referred you. And so that's kind of a win-win situation where, you get a little extra perk of having a thumbs up by somebody else in the company. That person also gets a referral bonus. I had a client yesterday who told me a particular company that he wanted to work for. And I went and looked on my LinkedIn for who I knew that worked in that company. And sure enough, the Great Careers Groups, we have a pretty big network and alumni since we've been around since 2010. And one of our alumni members works for that company.
So Jennifer asked, how would you recommend requesting an information interview in terms of wording? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
I think you just reach out on LinkedIn. If you don't know the person, you could try, or unless you could figure out what their email address is, and just say, I am considering switching careers, and I really took a good look at your profile and see you've climbed up the ladder, from that particular position. I would love to know if you have, 15 minutes, 10, 15, 20 minutes to have a conversation about things that might be helpful, for me to know about entering this new career. And again, if you're not asking for a job, if you're just asking for information, you keep it short and sweet, 2-3 sentences, just to catch their attention.
I think job seekers in general are always afraid of the no. Well, you have to try. You absolutely have to try. It's like when I've talked to people, I want to know specifically how I can help people out. And I think it's a very important thing from a job seeker perspective. This is what I need specific help with, not, and it's hard, but you do it and it does get easier.
Yeah. The job search is a sort of an evolutionary process. It's not like you are unemployed one day or don't have a job and you know exactly what to do. There is a lot of learning that has to happen. And that's the beauty of, networking and especially in all these job seeker clubs that exist. Some clubs are just for straight networking and others are for career education, like ours, where you have subject matter expert speakers coming to speak about a topic. Now, different people resonate with different people.
Terry said, just ask, be sincere, no pressure.
Just ask what?
Just ask, be sincere, no pressure.
Absolutely. It doesn't hurt to ask. If you don't do the ask, nothing will happen. So
Right.
you do have to ask, and people are really, I found very kind and willing to help somebody else.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So you also have to be ready and prepared with your interviewing skills. Like that's a major thing you have to do to prepare as a job search strategy. So you have to, practice your positioning statement. You have to know how to respond to why did you leave your last company. You have to know how to ask for the job when it comes down to the end of the interview. And you've got to share your accomplishments. I am a fan of STAR method: situation, task, action, result.
Hmm.
There's the SOAR method, the CAR method, the parade method, the PAR method, and there's all these different methods. But whatever you can do, what's the one important thing if you could possibly do in when you share your accomplishments? What do you think?
I think most people, like you said, they don't practice in advance as to what they're really going to say. And it's almost like it should come very naturally. You know, you should be able to think about it. And if you need to, sometimes it's not what you've done in a job, what you've done in your personal life. And if you think
Yeah.
about that from that perspective, it's a lot easier too.
So if you can quantify your accomplishments, if you can share with the company, share with the interviewer that how you saved the company money, made the company money, or saved time.
Definitely.
That's the golden triangle, and it's definitely something you got to toot your horn about, um, because the company doesn't know what you've done for other companies, and they're looking for, well, what can you do for us? What's in it for me? It's those transferable skills, right?
So Marty wants to know, what's the toughest question to answer? Why did you leave your job? Last job is a good one. Are there
Mm,
some questions that you would think are like a little?
that's really a good question. Thanks for that, Marty. I think a good one that fits that category that's tough is, what is your biggest weakness? And what you have to do is basically tell people, or tell the interviewer that what your weakness is, but make sure it's not a weakness that is in the job description. You want to pull something else out. And we have an amazing volunteer. His name is Leslie Sigarnik,
Mhm.
otherwise known as Les. And every Friday, we do a free interview prep workshop. And he runs it, and I help him run, some of the technology that goes behind it. And if you go on, again, greatcareersphl.org, and you go to the interview resources, or the resources tab, and you see interview resources, you'll see much more information about that. And if you can't make it on Friday, there's 3 videos there that you can watch. But he's just a fire hose of information, and he'll actually do some mock interviews with you if you attend on Friday. But I
Oh,
do want to give a shout out to Alex Freund, who is
yes.
also an interview coach. He's just phenomenal. So, definitely tap into Alex Freund, the landing expert, because he's definitely, that's all he does.
Yes.
That's his jam, is interview preparation.
So how do your administrative jobs from your past quantify accomplishments with no metrics?
Sometimes you can't quantify with metrics, but it's the overall effect, that you have to somehow or another explain. And the only way that you can prepare it is if you write it out. You have to make sure that it makes sense. And there's some really terrific resources where you can actually video record yourself for questions. And if you go to that interview resources page on the website, you'll see in an article that I wrote, one of them actually is LinkedIn. So if you click on the jobs tab, you will see, that LinkedIn has a bunch of interview questions.
Mhm.
Also, oh my goodness, there's something in Delaware. I can't think of what the name is right now. And then you've got somebody in New Jersey, Simon.ai. Is that Mr. Simon.ai?
Right.
Yeah, so they have practice interview questions where there's some videoing involved. So take advantage of these things and watch yourself on the video, because it's you want to watch to make sure you have eye contact and that you smile.
Well,
Yeah, that's really important.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you keep going? I have some other questions here, but I want to make sure we get to as many of yours as possible.
Great. Big thing is maybe become a lifelong learner. Go back and invest in yourself for more learning at universities. They don't necessarily even have to be local right now, because we do a lot of remote learning. So find a program that fits you and keep learning. Keep learning on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Learning, you
Right.
can actually take some substantial courses, and you can download certificates right on your LinkedIn profile,
Absolutely,
which is
yes.
super cool. And then gate these job seeker groups where you can learn from all these subject matter experts. I'm going to give a shout out to Hannah Morgan. Last week, she published an article and made some commentary saying, well, what do? You get all this different advice from different job search coaches. Well, yeah, everybody has a different situation. We are all individuals, and different strokes for different folks. There's only the one Cinderella, with the shoe. So
Right.
you have to find a career coach that has the shoe that's going to fit you, because everybody has different needs, wants, and desires. And it should all be individualized. No resume mills or anything like that. Work with somebody that can provide you that individualized attention and service.
You bring up a good point, because we all come from different places. We all have different experiences. It doesn't, in general, I think we agree with the tenets of something, but you want to take advantage of all the resources out there and figure out what makes best sense for you.
Yeah. Now, I think, towards the end, after we go through some of these other job search strategies, I want to talk about keywords and LinkedIn profiles and resumes and all that. But I'm going to keep going on some shorter topics
Okay, sure. I want to make sure that we get everything. Yeah.
Absolutely. So another topic would be maybe a proactive job search strategy, like putting out a newsletter. But you have to know that there's something called the Can-Spam Act. And it used to be $11,000 per violation. It's like $43,000 or something. Do not people your email list unless you have their blessing. Okay? So especially if you're going to use a MailChimp or Constant Contact or Aweber or MadMimi or anything like that, ask people's permission to add them to the email list, or send them a link and ask them to subscribe, and tell them you're going to put out a monthly newsletter. And you can have a variety of topics that you can put in your newsletter. And I actually have covered that in an article. Well, I write several articles. I write every week. So I do have that in some articles. And at the end, when I can access the comments, I'll put a couple of my links in there. So I have a whole Google Doc of all the publications that I've written since 2019, February 2019. And then you could do keyword searches on the website to pull up those blog articles.
Definitely.
Yeah. Next thing is you need maybe a one-pager for networking, sometimes called a networking page or a handbill or a marketing document. This is when you are with other job seekers. If you have this one pager, you want to have target companies on it. And it's easiest if you list those target companies in alphabetical order. And if you share this one pager with other people, if they see a job that fits in your area of expertise, they might just send you a link in LinkedIn. I do that a lot with people. If, we have frequent flyers of job seekers,
Right.
and I put people in a bucket, right? Everybody's got a bucket. So if you are a marketing communication specialist or a strategic planning specialist or, a CFO, I've got that in my bucket. Your name gets associated with a keyword.
Me too, because I have people in my network looking for jobs to fill. So if I know exactly what the people do, it makes my life a lot easier, and it makes your life a lot easier as a job seeker if you tell me what you're looking for.
So when, you've got to have a networking plan, and you can use this one pager when you go out and network. You don't want to waste your time going out to network for no reason. You have to have a goal. Like, you need to meet people, you need to connect with people. You've got to have over 400 connections at least on LinkedIn for that magic algorithm stuff to kind of happen for you. And you need to know how to leverage the second level connections to get to new connections for you. You want to leverage first level connections to get to second level connections who you don't know, so you can get to people in a company and make new relationships. So that one pager, again, you don't use it for resume or a job submission or anything like that, but you use it with other job seekers, or perhaps you even use it for an informational interview, but you don't want to have all the other target companies on there if you're targeting that particular company. So you have to think, strategically about, how you're going to format that and submit it. But having a networking plan, you have to be able to track your history. I know even for the unemployment office, you have to track all your job seeking activity.
Right.
So, I think in Pennsylvania, you have to at least apply to 2 jobs a week, and you have to attend some sort of an event, right? So how are you going to track that? So some people use Excel. I'm a Google Sheets girl. I love Google because I can pull it up anywhere. Some people have some kind of a CRM. So what kind of CRMs do you know about that have helped people in your network?
Well, I believe it or not, Google has been really helpful. I love the idea of having a Calendly with a link to my calendar. It's not a CRM per se. The other thing is, and this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, but build yourself a website on WordPress.
Yeah.
Build a very basic website on WordPress or some other place like that, so you can showcase your stuff, and it makes you also that much more the perceptions, what you're doing in the tech and IT and stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because last week I wrote an article and I didn't have a chance to put it on my LinkedIn newsletter until Sunday, I think, or maybe it was Monday morning. So it was called something to do with, how to build an impressive career portfolio. And right now I am so excited about this platform called wintheview.com. It is pretty classy. There's a cost to it, mind you. It's like your own personal website.
Right.
Man, oh man, if you are, make a decent living, usually it is super duper professional. And if you look up my last LinkedIn newsletter, which you'll find in my featured section, you will see the comments below that there are people that I give a shout out to who have built, a Google site, like David Schuckman builds Google sites as well as other stuff. Scott Zakruski built some pretty cool WordPress websites, as well as he did his on Squarespace also, but he did somebody else on WordPress. Wayne Oliver has got a pretty cool platform, but I don't even know what it is, but he has a pretty cool website. So I mentioned a few people's names down there, but again, check out the Winterview. It's pretty cool. You can have 2 days free trial to check it out. And just because I recently had the owner of that speak for us, I have some discounts for people that are interested if they do want to participate in that. So
Free is such a great word for job seekers. People love free stuff, whether it's Canva or something like that, or even platforms like this too.
yeah, absolutely. So I think, that topic of portfolio presentation. So there are other ways of doing a portfolio presentation. You could, depending on what attachments you wanted to share, you can make a pretty cool thing on Canva. So I was doing PowerPoint and then I did Google Slides, and I get much more professional looking presentations through Canva, and Canva is free. And that's actually another workshop that I teach, how to make snazzy graphics for social media. And I'm actually teaching that on Thursday, and that's free. Yeah, free. Look, free is good. I'm doing live demos. And I think Score will actually save the video. And if you can't make it, if you register for it, I think you get the video sent to you after the fact. So this is a really good way to be taught how to do graphic design by a non-graphic designer, because I speak in layman's and laywoman's terms. Because I'm not, that's not my background, but I've learned how to, figure it out. All right. Another thing, I think maybe you've heard me present this one before, is a value proposition letter.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is when you are applying for jobs and you see a company that maybe has an article in the business journal, your local business journal, and it really appeals to you. And you go to the company's website and you don't see any jobs available, but you think, wow, I'm reading between the lines in this article. They could really use my expertise. I got the goods. So if you write a value proposition letter, it's short and sweet, like 100 to 150 words. You put 3 accomplishments in it. It is a very specific way to format a letter, and you can send it by snail mail. Remember those things called envelopes with stamps? Yeah. So if people are working in their office, you could send a snail mail letter, because it's different than online communications. So it might get some attention. And or if you have to, if you know that everybody is working remotely, you could, send this red herring kind of letter out, and you could send it to the CEO. You could send it to a hiring manager or CIO, or whatever department or area you are in. Take a chance, be bold, and just tell them, what you saw this article in the business journal, and you're reaching out because you have some expertise. You've done this, and this, your quantifiable accomplishments, and you're going to call and follow up in the next week, in the hopes that you could have a conversation.
Yeah, I think, for sure. So before we wrap up, I don't know how many more tips you have. I want to make sure you said you wanted to go to your ATS stuff. I want to make sure you get.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other one that I had that's short and sweet, but I think I sort of mentioned it, was volunteer. So find some area that you are passionate about and a mission that you believe in for a nonprofit, and that will help fill a gap on your LinkedIn profile or your resume. Which leads me to resumes, and let's talk about keywords, and let's talk about LinkedIn profiles. Whoops, I just computer. Just a
live,
little.
gotta love live presentation.
Just want to see if you're awake there. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm of the belief, and again, other people believe different things, but I'm of the belief that you need to have 2 resumes. One is a pretty resume for humans that has a little pop of color. And then another one that is a deconstructed resume that is basically the Arial 12-point font that's going to make it through the applicant tracking system. Now, you have to keep these resumes in sync, okay? So if you have a base resume and you are then customizing it to a specific job description, you have to have that applicant tracking system or deconstructed resume. It's got to be matchy-matchy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I spend a lot of time with clients getting to the base resume. Like it requires preparation. You have to be able to look up keywords. So there's a variety of ways of looking up keywords. You know, one way is on LinkedIn. If you click on the jobs tab, then, you know, you can build a resume there and it will pop up the keywords that it reads in your online profile. So you can build a resume from LinkedIn, or you can upload your own resume and then LinkedIn will scan that and pull out the keywords that it sees. Now, if you have a free LinkedIn profile, it's not going to give you all. You know, they want to sell the subscription. You have a premium profile, so I can see, you know, all of the information. And LinkedIn also has a platform which I think is on GitHub called Career Explorer, and they have, you know, thousands of keywords and titles in there, and you can play around with that. I'm kind of maybe a little bit old school, if you want to say that, with technology. I do use technology, but I like to check, double check, and do things manually with technology. So what I do is I will make a spreadsheet. And in the spreadsheet, I put a keyword. And then next to it, I have another column, and I will look up the word. So, for example, I'll click the jobs tab. I'll type in project manager, and then I'll put in the area where I'm looking for a job, Greater Philadelphia area. And then I'll click search. It's going to tell me in the top left-hand corner how many jobs there are. Then the next thing I'll do is take the R off of manager, and I'll make it project management. And I'll hit the search bar again. It's going to show me that there's a whole bunch more jobs for project management than there is for project manager. So when I'm thinking about my LinkedIn profile, I typically want to focus on where to put keywords, which is in the headline. That's, you know, definitely for sure. That's got a lot of weight. In the about section, in the skills section, in the embellished job titles. So you can have up to 100 characters for embellished job titles. So why not take your real job title and then go, you know, space pipe space keyword, space pipe space keyword. Is so funny because 2 weeks ago I had a client and we kind of ran through the keyword list, and all we had time to do, you know, before we had to wrap up our meeting was to do his new headline. And I wanted to show him how to embellish one job title. I hadn't done his resume yet. I hadn't done his whole LinkedIn profile yet. Within 2 days, a recruiter contacted him because of the keyword that matched in his job title as well as in his headline. And he's like, Lynn, I'm a believer of keywords.
Well, recruiters also do all these Boolean searches too.
Exactly. Yes.
They're doing, it's not just one keyword. It might be project manager or project management or this or and that. So the more of the keywords you have in your resume or on your LinkedIn profile, the better the opportunities that you will be in that first part of searching, because you want to be in the top parts of the searches. And I've looked at the Recruiter Lite a little bit, and they're only going to go take the top 25 or 50 based on certain criteria, and they just match it up that way.
Well, this was probably a recruiter that didn't have Recruiter Lite. I think they had the full-blown, you know, Recruiter. But there are little recruiters who actually have that as their job, staffing agencies and whatnot, and they may not use that, but yet they still have to find people. So you can do a Boolean search on LinkedIn by, just using one word, or if it's 2 or 3 words, you just glom them together in some quotes so they all stay together, and use the capital and, capital or capital not, and then other phrases. But you can also do Boolean searches on Google for the LinkedIn. And I knew this all along, but it was Ed Hahn that refreshed my memory when he was at PSG of Mercer County when I went to see him in Princeton when we did that in real life thing, right?
Yeah, really.
and so I gave him some props when I wrote the article about it. And I thanked him for bringing that, to my forefront, because I use Boolean searches all the time in my dissertation research. So I've written articles about that. So if you can go to greatcareersphl.org and type in the word Boolean, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see, both of those articles.
Now, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, what's your opinion when people put location down, if they put their hometown in versus they put a metropolitan area? I think a lot of people don't realize.
Area. Yeah.
Most
you
people
don't want to peg yourself in a little hole in a city, right? Because there may be the city right next to you that is before the metropolitan area where you might not have gotten reach. So you definitely need to put the metropolitan area. But aside from headline, about section, embellished job titles and skills, I also put, keywords and descriptions for projects and publications. So, if you have them, you definitely take advantage and put the keywords in there.
I'm sorry.
Another one to do is on that project manager and project management. I find that Google definitely mirrors LinkedIn for the most part. So if you go on Google Trends, which is trends.google.com, enter project manager, and in the compare, enter project management, then what you're going to do is choose your metropolitan area. You don't want United States, maybe you're not in the United States. So choose your area where you want to find that job. And then we've had a couple weird 2 years. So I would choose 90 days, like see what's going on in the last 90 days. And you will see the red line and the red bar graph for project management is definitely bigger than the blue line project manager. So I double check some major keywords on using Google Trends.
I think what I wanted to just show here, this is something that Terry actually put to Deb, but so true. The key is impact. You want to think about the benefits of what you've done and how you can portray them for someone else, because resumes are the past, and yes, you want to put down very specific things, but I go back to this again. So what is that going to help for the next person? I mean, right. When I get a hold of someone who's hiring, one of the first questions I'm going to ask, what are the 2 or 3 main pain points you have? Let's forget the job description for a moment. It could be a wish list. What do you need help with right away? And then, focus on that.
That's so important. When you write your LinkedIn profile, it's not about you. It's about them. It's
Absolutely.
What's in it for them to want to read your profile. What problems can you solve? What pain points can you take away? So you have to write it without sounding narcissistic, like I. I personally don't like using the word I as the first word in the sentence. Of course, you want to make your LinkedIn profile in first person or first person implied I. You don't want to write a third person bio, but maybe you use the word currently, comma, I, so that I is not the first word. That's not the focus, is not on you. I'd add some kind of phrase or some kind of word, transition word, at the beginning before you bring in the I. But if you can tell a story and you can share why something is important to you, or what you have a passion for, that's always a good thing too. That way, you're showing that you're human. It's the human to human. Bots don't hire humans. Humans hire humans. So get that personal touch in.
So this has been really great, Lynn. I would love to have you back some other time if that's of interest to you. And
Absolutely.
I look forward to the chance to head down to you. I don't know if you're still looking for speakers for a remote or not, but I'll throw my hat in the ring again because I think it's so important to pay it forward.
Awesome.
I miss you guys so much down in Philly.
I'm actually booking for May, and right now we're doing just by Zoom for the moment.
Okay.
We're going to wait and see what happens. We want to keep our members safe, our guests safe, and our volunteers safe.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, I saw something in the Wall Street Journal that, there is no end to COVID. And I didn't read the article, but I saw the headline and I'm like, this is not good news. So, but for the time being, we're going to do Zoom. So I'll definitely be in touch.
All right. Thanks a lot, everyone, very much. I hope you got a lot of information out. Have a great day, everyone. Before you know it, it's going to be spring. And next week, we're going to have a special 2/22/22 event because it's February 22nd, 2022. So we're going to have fun with that.
Very cool. So I'll add some links in the chat once I can access it.
Sounds great. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Right. Take care.
Bye.